All right, we're doing the grades video, but I'm recording 4 seconds to go in the fourth. Philly up 30-23. Both teams trying their best to lose. Jim Schwartz is running his picket fence defense. What's the worst can happen? It's not like they have a bunch of playmakers. Give it to Brandon Cooks. Give it to Todd Gurley on the screen. Brandon Graham has been a ghost. I'm bringing Nate Gary on the whatever. And it is over. Avonte Maddox, a man that I chirped immensely when they drafted. I never said he was bad, like a bad pick. People are like, hey, C4, did you say Avonte Maddox? Let's bring this mic over here. Was a bad pick. And I never thought, what's the proper way to put it? I'm super excited right now because we actually just got the job, man. Big Dick Nick got the job done. Even though that was a terribly, terribly coached game in the second half by Doug Peterson, Jim Schwartz as well. But for Avonte Maddox, people said, C4, you hated the Avonte Maddox. I didn't hate it. I just wasn't a fan of it. There's a difference. Because if I hate a pick, that means I'm going to resent that player forever. Pretty much when Avonte Maddox started at safety before he got hurt and he actually played pretty well, I was like, all right, wipe this slate clean. And he got a really, really good interception. And it's pretty crazy that we finally are getting some good DB play from guys that are fast because we have a notoriously slow secondary. So I'm going to go make a tweet real quick about this game, and then we're going to finish up these grades. All right, we're back. So the Philadelphia Eagles did get the job done. Is it upset of the season? I kind of feel like if you say it's upset of the season, that's a little disrespectful to Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles. But you clearly saw it, man. Now that it came to light that Carson Wentz has been playing with essentially a broken back for, 5 weeks, 6 weeks? We can all pretty much admit that Nick Foles is better than Carson Wentz with a broken back. Make sure you throw that in there because I know there are a lot of Nick Foles homers that are going to use this one as to really add fuel to the fire. But big win from the Eagles. I'm going to do a quick grades because my phone's about to die, and then I can just talk about the game. Nick Foles went 24 of 31, 270 yards, had an interception. The interception was, it wasn't a big play by the Rams secondary. I think that Foles made it kind of easy for him. But ultimately, Foles, the deep threat, the deep shots, Dalshon Jeffrey were the difference maker. Looked like an entirely different scheme. So, it's one of those things, people want to ask me, do you think it's because, when Carson Wentz is there, he wants to force feed Zach Ertz? And I kind of said, I think that's more, he's had an injury. Carson Wentz knew his back was kind of banged up, and he doesn't want to get hit. And he was already getting hit enough as it was, so he's just taking the quick release, looking for, Nelson Aguilar, Golden Tate short, and more, obviously, Zach Ertz. But you look at Nick Foles, he was getting pummeled. Like, I'm pretty sure every time he completed a deep pass to Alshon Jeffrey, he was getting smoked by Ndamukong Suh or Aaron Donald. And, that's kind of what Carson Wentz was trying to avoid. So I kind of feel like that's the difference between, tonight's offense that we saw with Foles and what we've seen so far this year with Carson Wentz. But for Nick Foles, I'm going to give him a B. If Nick Foles can play like this against the Texans, if this is the new norm for the Eagles where, we still had definitely not a complete game, almost choked it at the end. I was getting flashbacks of the Panthers loss. But if we could play like this for the most part, I think we could win out this season. We got the Texans, we got the Rams. Very easy that we could do that. Look at the run game. Wendell Smallwood, one of my most hated. And you know what? Okay, we'll give him the grades first. Wendell Smallwood went 10 carries, 40 yards, 2 touchdowns. Darren Sproles, 3 carries, 30 yards. Josh Adams had 28 yards and a touchdown. So people, I don't hate Wendell Smallwood. I hate Deuce Staley's usage of Wendell Smallwood. But tonight he went on the hot hand. I just view this as, no, oh my God, C4's wrong about Wendell Smallwood. He actually had a good game for once. That does not make up for Wendell Smallwood being god-awful in all but one other game he's played in. And, completely undeserving of snaps up until this point. But what was good, what I'm actually going to give praise to, is Deuce Staley actually stuck with the hot hand for once. Wendell Smallwood was clearly being, I think Darren Sproles probably deserved a couple more carries, but for the most part, Wendell Smallwood was being the more productive back, and Deuce Staley actually kept with him in the lineup. I was shocked, because even when Josh Adams was looking like maybe the savior of our team, he still was getting rotated in and out at an ungodly amount of time. So, lastly, I just need to say, for the love of God, the worst segment of people in this Eagle fan base right now, even worse than the people that think Nick Foles is better than Carson Wentz, are the people that want Deuce Staley as an offensive coordinator. If you want Deuce Staley as an offensive coordinator, we can't be friends, simply put. But the run game, it's getting an A. The run game looked as good tonight as it has all season long, and we're going to need that to continue. Looking at the wide receivers, Alshon Jeffrey, 8 catches for 160 yards. Again, people just thought because he wasn't getting targeted, because everything was going through Zach Ertz, that he isn't a legit wide receiver one. Alshon Jeffrey is a top 10 talent wide receiver. Now, his usage and his stats this year aren't going to dictate that, especially if you're just trying to, extrapolate all of the numbers and stuff like that. But in terms of talent, I think Alshon Jeffrey is right around that top 10. Like I said, some weeks he is, some weeks he's not. I feel like if I make a list and I'm being unbiased, Alshon is going to come between 9 and 13 on every single one of those lists. Because of that, I think he gets, we got to give him a little bit of credit that he can. And, when he gets featured, looks every bit of a top 10 wide receiver. Golden Tate, 5 catches, 43 yards. Zach Ertz had 3 for 22. He got 101 catches on the season, so kudos to him. See if he can go break Jason Witten's record so we can get another Cowboy off the record list. Dallas Goedert looked really, really good in the run blocking game, man. If we can utilize those guys like the Patriots used to do with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, Dallas Goedert looks immensely talented. He definitely looks like the best tight end from this previous draft class. We definitely want to see him get more involved, but we're seeing right now as a blocker that we already know the highlight reel catches. That's why he got drafted, but we're seeing now as a blocker, you give that guy more snaps, you give that guy more opportunities in the passing game, I think he's going to be absolutely dangerous. So, obviously Golden Tate trade's going to kind of nuke his touches a little bit, nuke his looks. But, it was a good day. I'm going to give our wide receivers here. I didn't see any drops. I didn't see any bad plays. Wide receivers get an A. Special teams, Jake Elliott was 3 of 4. He missed the field goal, the long one. His kicks he didn't look like he had a lot of, we all know Jake Elliott's good from 60. I don't know if it's the wind or whatever, but his kicks, I remember when you make a kick on NBC, they show you how long it was good for. And he, on a 52 or something that he made, it said it was only good from 56. And, I knew he wasn't going to make that last field goal. I really wanted the punt. And, unfortunately, that's going to affect his grade. But luckily, Cam Johnston, don't at me, best punter in the league right now. I actually think, statistically, he's the second best punter, but because he came out of nowhere and he's Australian, shout out to Parham Crow, he's getting the best punter in the league tag from me, in my biased opinion. Special teams will get a C+. If it would have been an A+ if Jake Elliott made that game-sealing kick. Looking at defense, man, Rasul Douglas had 14 tackles. He's the most obscure case because he's good enough to play corner, I think, but you start to fall in that Jalen Mills where, he's a clone of Jalen Mills, kind of. While he has a lot more ball protection than Jalen Mills, he still lacks speed, and that's always going to kind of hinder him. But you also see play that would be great at safety. So it's a little bit weird because, when Ronald Darby's in, people criticize Ronald Darby because he can't tackle. But then you get a guy like Rasul Douglas in at corner. He can tackle, but you still want to move him back to safety. I think I saw Bleeding Green Nation or something like that tweet that. And I was like, I kind of agree with that, even though I firmly also agree that Rasul Douglas' skill set will be maximized at that safety spot. I do think he is, the X factor that I say, if you're looking at Rasul and Jalen, why you keep Rasul at corner is he does have, I would say, almost fringe elite playmaking ability to get interceptions and get turnovers. He hasn't had enough snaps. I would say right now, if Rasul Douglas was starting, he started all 16 games as a corner, which is in itself crazy. Heaven forbid Philly actually has a corner that can start all 16 games. But I would say Rasul is a 4-5 pick kind of. He just has a knack. He gets targeted a lot because he's slow, but he's big enough and has good ball skills that he can pick off sloppy passes. So, shout out to him. Malcolm Jenkins has been immense this season. I actually think debatably Malcolm Jenkins, even over Fletcher Cox, has been our best player on defense this year. Obviously Fletcher Cox without a doubt, even including Carson Wentz, I think Fletcher Cox is our best player by a decent amount, pound for pound. But I think Malcolm Jenkins, what he's done for this defense, especially down the stretch, man, it seems like every time Carson Wentz goes out with injury, Malcolm Jenkins just takes his game to another level. I don't know. I don't want to... I'm going to make it a tie right now. That's as far as I can go, because even just saying it out loud to myself, I still don't think I could say anyone's better than Fletcher Cox right now on that defense. So Malcolm Jenkins is 1B to Fletcher Cox's 1A. Crayvon LeBlanc had 7 tackles, or 8 tackles, sorry. He actually looks decent. People are asking me on Twitter, can he make the roster next year? When you look at all these new corners that's kind of rotated in during the injury crisis, we've seen Chandon Sullivan, Crayvon LeBlanc, Devontae Bosby, maybe a couple others. Definitely, I think LeBlanc has some talent. He did not look out of place. Made a couple tackles on Todd Gurley, a couple tackles on Robert Woods. I think he might have a shot next year. Depending on what we're doing with Maddox, LeBlanc could be like our depth nickel corner, and we run a lot of nickel, especially if Jim Schwartz gets re-signed. So there's that. But Fletcher Cox had a sack. We had 2 picks, Avonte Maddox and Corey Graham. Thank God Corey Graham did something so that we can't just remember his season as the time he got embarrassed in overtime against the Titans. Defense is going to get B+, just because of how they close out that fourth quarter. I can't give them an A or anything like that because they were starting to choke a little bit. They're starting to get tired, and definitely I think the fourth quarter was more the offensive play calling than anything. But the defense, I mean, it made the final stand when they needed to, but they still, they're giving a lot of yards there. They didn't look particularly good on the drive that they got the touchdown to the Todd Gurley, like 1 yard touchdown. So I'll give them a B+, A-, somewhere in that territory. But I'm telling you right now, Philadelphia can play like this. And this is realistic for them to play like this because we had that near collapse. Like, this is not a Eagles team that's going to magically flip that switch and look like last year's team. This is going to be an Eagles team that's still going to have some hiccups. But if they can play like this against the Texans and definitely against the Redskins, they could go to, win their next 2 games and hope to God that the Vikings lose to the Bears or something like that. Because I think Vikings lose 1. If all we need to happen is Philly win out and Vikings to lose 1. And we're in, I believe, because I think they're only a half a game ahead of us. So... get ready for Houston, man. That's going to be a big-time game. I was actually low-key thinking about flying to that because everyone knows I'm a big Deshaun Watson fan because obviously, Clemson and Brian Dawkins, and I do like the Texans. Texans are one of the teams I do enjoy watching in the AFC, and I was really, really close to going to this game. But I just can't because there's multitude of reasons. Obviously, it's very close to Christmas. It would have been a nice Christmas gift to myself. But every time I've gone to an Eagles game, the starting quarterbacks got hurt, and I don't want to put that curse on Nick Foles. I've gone to 2 games before. I went to 1 game where Michael Vick was already hurt after I ordered my tickets, and then I can't remember who the backup was. It might have actually been Foles, and then Foles got a concussion, and then Matt Barkley came in and threw 4 interceptions. And then the next game I went to, it was the Bradford era. Bradford got hurt, and Mark Sanchez came in. I'm not going to put that curse for all Eagle fans. I'm not going to get a good game that I would enjoy watching. I'm not going to put anyone else through that. I'm going to sit my ass here in Canada. I'm going to watch it in my goddamn dungeon downstairs that I do all my recording and watch football in and yell because no one can hear me. And hopefully, man, that's gonna be a really, really good game. So I'll catch you guys back here for post-game grades next week. I hope you guys did enjoy this. This is only today's video because I was originally going to have the new Bison. The audio was fucked up, so that Bison episode will be dropping tomorrow afternoon. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching. Go Eagles! And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Man, and there you go. I'm sticking to it. Rams are pretenders. They're not a bad team. They're just not Super Bowl contenders. I really firmly believe the Rams are going to go one and done. That's how I'm going to end it. Bye.